Philippine President Marcos Jr. is meeting with senior Trump administration officials on the first day of his visit to Washington, D.C. Their talks are expected to focus on trade and security, but not on the immigration concerns of Filipinos in Amerika. Katrina Domingo reports from Washington.
The Philippines is keeping its focus on trade, defense, and security talks in President Ferdinand Marcos Jr.'s first official meeting with U.S. President Donald Trump, as negotiations between the Philippines and the U.S. continue over the 20% tariff that Washington imposed on Manila, especially as garments, electronics, agriculture, and other industries may incur significant losses if the duties on export products to the world's largest economy remains steep.
We're in the middle of some negotiations that are being conducted by Secretary Frederick Go, who's heading our team together with Secretary Roque. So hopefully it will be a positive outcome. In other words, para magkatugma yung relationship, kailangan tama lang for both sides. So we have to always think on those bases now. Hindi na pwede yung anong pwede natin makuha sa isang bayan.
The U.S. imposed a 17% tariff against the Philippines in April as part of Trump's retaliatory duties policy. Despite negotiations in May, that number further climbed to 20% in August. Data from the Office of the United States Trade Representative show that while the Philippines and the United States total trade in 2024 reached $23.5 billion, the Philippines' exports to the U.S. accounted for over $14 billion, but it only imported $9.3 billion worth of goods from the world's largest economy. Despite this, some Philippine officials are still hopeful that Manila and Washington's trade talks will have a positive outcome, especially as Marcos Jr. is the first ASEAN leader to be invited to the White House under Trump's second term. The Philippines is open to reducing tariffs on some American products in its bid to secure zero or lower reciprocal tariffs from the U.S. Finance Chief Ralph Recto said they have already identified a set of U.S. products for this, adding it will not likely have a huge impact on the Philippine economy. The U.S. government also hosted the Filipino president in the Blair House, the U.S. president's official guest house for select visitors here. Outside the Blair House, several protesters called out the Philippine chief executive for his alleged subservience to the United States. Protesters are also urging Manila to include deportation issues in the agenda, saying that thousands of Filipinos with insufficient documents are expected to be booted out of the country soon. But Philippine Ambassador to the United States Jose Manuel Romualdez says Manila and Washington have already tackled deportation issues in previous meetings.
I've had meetings with the Department of Homeland Security on how we can cooperate with the United States on how to handle illegal immigration. The bottom line is there is really not much room for discussion, but to simply work in such a way that all Filipinos that are up for deportation will be deported to the Philippines. And as long as they're Filipino citizens, we will make sure that they are deported.
Instead of immigration issues, Marcos Jr. will meet with the semiconductors industry here to discuss the Philippines' top export commodity to the U.S., which so far is still exempted from tariffs. The Filipino leader will also tackle defense and security cooperation with State Secretary Marco Rubio and U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Before Marcos Jr.'s White House meeting with Trump on July 22nd, all eyes are now on the Pentagon to see whether or not the Philippines and the United States will already begin discussions on the planned construction of an American ammunition hub in Subic. Katrina Domingo, ABS-CBN News, Washington, D.C.
Philippine Senate President Francis Escudero rejects calls for him to inhibit from the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. Escudero also insists the trial cannot immediately begin once the Senate's regular session opens next week. The details from RG Cruz.
Braving the heavy rains, these student leaders delivered an open letter to Senate President Francis Escudero asking him to inhibit from the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte. They were denied entry into the Senate, but a representative from the Senate Chief's office met them to get the letter.
Ang ginagawa lang niya ay paulit-ulit, dinedelay, pinapatagal, gumagawa pa ng mga dahilan. Sinasabing yung forthwith ay hindi naman daw agad-agad.
Escudero, however, dismissed the call, which he believed were acts of partisans who just want to rush the conviction of the vice president.
Klaro ang kanilang gusto mangyari at hindi porkit hindi sumasang-ayon sa kanila o sumusunod sa kanila, hindi na patas. Uulitin ko, klarong pabor silang ma-impeach ang Vice President, klarong ayaw nila sa Vice President. Sinabi ko rin nilang ulit na noon. Sino mang pabor o kontra sa impeachment, sino mang pabor o kontra sa nasasakdal, hindi namin papakinggan. Gagawin namin kung anong tingin namin tama at naayon sa batas.
Escudero notes that the Supreme Court shares some of the questions posed by the Senate Impeachment Court with the House of Representatives.
At hindi ba sapat na sa ngayon, kinatigan ng Korte Suprema ang ilan sa posisyon ng Kamara, ng Senado. Out of the 11 questions of the Supreme Court, 5 of those were questions of the Senate itself to the House of Representatives.
The Senate chief meantime clarified that the August 4 timetable for the convening of the court is still just a proposal that will have to be decided by the whole Senate.
Yun yung imumungkahi ko. Bakit yun ang petsang yun? Dahil kailangan bigyan ng notice yung mga partido. Hindi naman pwedeng naisipan lang ng majority ng Senado, pag open ng Senado, bukas na bukas din. Kailangan may sapat na panahon para mabigyan ng notice yung mga partido.
Escudero also explained why they cannot convene a day after Congress opens.
Kasi kailangan yung mga parties bigyan ng notice. Pangalawa, wala pa namang order yung Senado doon na hindi pa kino-comply ng Kamara. Hopefully, that 1-week period, yung Kamara will be given time to comply with the orders of the Senate Impeachment Court. Dahil yung pangalawang order, hindi ba? Dapat ang gumawa nun 20th House of Representatives. Hindi yung nagdaang House of Representatives. Kung hindi man nila na-comply yun pagdating ng August 4, doon na lamang pag-uusapan.
Escudero also blasted doubts that there won't be a trial and those who seek to rush it. He maintained that the Senate of the 20th Congress itself will still have to decide whether it has jurisdiction over a case that began in the 19th Congress.
Wala naman ako sa lugar sabihing mali ang majority o anong gagawin ng majority. The Senate is a deliberative body and we settle everything by a vote. That is clear to everyone concerned, especially those covering the Senate.
The spokesperson of the House of Representatives meantime hopes the Supreme Court will see the wisdom of the chamber.
It is imperative also to recall that the initiation of an impeachment complaint lies solely with the House of Representatives. Lahat naman po yan ay ayon dun sa kapangyarihan ng House sa paggawa nila ng kanilang internal rules and regulations at pasok din ito sa kapangyarihan ng House of Representatives na binibigay ng saligang batas.
The House asserted that its actions on the impeachment proceedings were compliant with internal rules and the Constitution. The Office of the Solicitor General, as the House's legal counsel, electronically filed the compliance through the Philippine Judiciary portal on Friday and served all parties. A physical copy was scheduled to be formally submitted to the High Tribunal on Monday. The compliance of the HOR was already uploaded by the Supreme Court on its website. RG Cruz, ABS-CBN News.
A former local government official and a cockfight arena owner are said to be meddling in a probe into the disappearance of dozens of Philippine cockfight gamers. This was revealed by Rafael Calinisan, the vice chairman of the Philippine National Police Commission. Calinisan did not mention any names, but he vows no one can influence the commission's investigation to result in a cover-up.
Di ako papayag, hindi tayo papaareglo. Siguro, mensahe ko na lang dun sa dalawang grupo, huwag niyo na hong subukan. Klaro-klaro po ang utos ng presidente na no cover-ups, no stone unturned. Kami po sa NAPOLCOM hindi papayag na papa-impluwensya sa kahit na kanino. Hindi po kami natatakot, wala po kaming uurungan.
Counter-affidavits have been submitted by 12 policemen who were linked by whistleblower Julie Patidongan to the disappearance of the cockfight gamers. Patidongan had filed administrative complaints against the 12 policemen who are now under restrictive custody.
Philippine authorities arrest Chinese fugitive Wang Dan-yu, also known as Bao Long. He is linked to a restaurant shooting in Makati in October last year and the abduction of a 14-year-old student in Taguig in February. Wang was apprehended in Bonggao, Tawi-Tawi midnight on Saturday as he allegedly attempted to re-enter the country through the southern back door. He was aboard a speedboat when he was arrested by virtue of a warrant issued by a Makati City court. The 28-year-old Chinese man is wanted for murder, carnapping, and kidnapping for ransom.
Pasig Court denies bail to detained Philippine televangelist Apollo Quiboloy in his human trafficking case. The court said there was strong evidence to prove Quiboloy's guilt, but it clarified that the denial of his bail petition does not determine the outcome of his trial. Quiboloy is accused of using his Davao-based church to run a child sex trafficking network in the Philippines and the U.S. He was arrested inside his church compound in September last year after a weeks-long standoff between police and his followers. Intense rain and floods forced the suspension of classes and work in government offices across Metro Manila and nearby Philippine provinces. Disaster management officials expect no let-up in the severe weather, with another potential storm already being forecast. Bianca Dava has tonight's top story.
Government work and all classes in Metro Manila and 10 nearby provinces are suspended on Tuesday, July 22nd. This was announced by the Interior and Local Government following the recommendation of the Office of Civil Defense and the Cabinet. These are Metro Manila, Zambales, Bataan, Pampanga, Bulacan, Cavite, Batangas, Rizal, Pangasinan, Tarlac, and Occidental Mindoro. But even as the country deals with the effects of the southwest monsoon, the OCD has warned against the possible effects of another low-pressure area that may develop into a tropical depression within the Philippine area of responsibility. The new weather disturbance could again impact areas previously hit by severe tropical storm KASING and the southwest monsoon. OCD Officer in Charge Assistant Secretary Bernardo Rafaelito Alejandro IV said the areas at risk include the National Capital Region, Ilocos Region, Central Luzon, Calabarzon, Mimaropa, Cordillera Administrative Region, Western Visayas, and Negros Island Region.
Habagat pa rin or ulan pa rin ang kalaban natin dito. So we expect continuous flooding or more floodings, and of course yung landslide sa mga high-risk areas ay nandyan pa rin yung banta.
As of Monday morning, 800,000 individuals have been affected by rains and flooding. 5 people were reported dead, 5 others injured, while 7 more remain missing. Among those missing, 3 each were reported in Metro Manila and Antique, and 1 in Palawan. The damage to infrastructure has reached 219 million pesos, while damage to agriculture hit 53 million pesos. A total of 115 cities and municipalities experienced power interruptions, but electricity has been restored in over 90.
Ang ask lang namin sa Meralco to make it be more prudent or observant, no? Proactive within the next 48 hours kasi baka bumuhos pa eh. Ang problem yung baha eh. Yun lang yung ano kasi kahit una hindi makapasok ang taga Meralco, and second, delikado din na i-turn on yung electricity. So, yun yung problem. Pero lucky tayo in a sense na wala namang masyadong hangin. Kaya hindi ganun ka laki ang problema.
Although KASING has exited the Philippine area of responsibility, the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council remains on red alert status. Monitoring continues for rivers such as the Cagayan River and the Marikina River, as well as dams such as the Ambuclao Dam and Binga Dam in Benguet, which may cause flooding if they release water. The OCD reported that 329 barangays in the mentioned regions are still submerged.
Ang kailangan lang talaga namin gawin sa OCD, sa NDRIMC is to intensify our early warning, and hopefully our LGUs will translate this into actions, meaning magkaroon tayo ng preemptive evacuation kung kailangan, and prepositioning ng mga needed resources, no, na kailangan in the event na talagang magkaroon ng disaster.
The government has distributed over 50 million pesos worth of aid to affected local government units. 3 million family food packs are also on standby with the Department of Social Welfare and Development.
Inaasahan po natin na tataas pa yung bilang na ito sapagkat may mga request pa po tayo na natatanggap mula sa mga iba't ibang mga lokal na pamahalaan. Nakahanda naman po ang DSWD na mamahagi ng mga food packs and food items at iba po mga pangangailangan.
Aside from floods and landslides, the OCD is also monitoring Canlaon Volcano in Negros Island, Taal Volcano in Batangas, and Mayon Volcano in Albay for possible lahar flows due to continuous rain.
So far, wala pa namang nag-move na lahar doon sa Canlaon, but binibigyan natin ng special attention ang Negros dahil nga dito sa activities ng Canlaon. So, tuloy-tuloy ang ating pagbibigay assistance doon, minomonitor natin yan. Yun nga, special itong Canlaon because we have mga existing evacuees na. No? So, double whammy ito sa kanila, biktima na sila ng Canlaon, biktima pa sila ng itong weather disturbance.
Bianca Dava, ABS-CBN News.
Heavy monsoon rains spawned flash floods across several Metro Manila cities. The city mayors say waterways and sewers clogged with trash have compounded the problem. This story from Jervis Manahan.
Water level at the Marikina River quickly rose due to incessant rains caused by the southwest monsoon. The local government of Marikina ordered evacuation centers to start accepting residents after the river's water level reached 16 meters early Monday afternoon. This triggered the city's second alarm, which means voluntary evacuation, particularly to residents in low-lying areas. Small water tributaries are also closely monitored by the local government. Mayor Maan Quedoro went around these areas to monitor garbage hauling efforts. The mayor admits improper waste disposal contributes to flooding since it blocks drainage systems.
Yung basura na galing doon sa creeks, sa upstream, dito talaga dumidiretso. So nakikita natin yung mga garbage, debris, mga plastic na hindi natutunaw at yan ngayon yung bumabara sa ating mga waterways. Hanggat yung mga tributaries natin, hindi natin nalilinis, syempre yung epekte na nanggagaling sa taas, yung tubig, yung basura, talagang magiging ganito ang sitwasyon.
Over in San Juan, parents and students called on concerned government agencies to announce class suspensions ahead of time. Mayor Francis Zamora says it's still up to parents to make the final decision to ensure their children's safety. Zamora notes the Metro Manila Council will discuss efforts to ease the impact of flooding on the public in their next meeting.
Ganyan po lumalakas po yung ulan, ano na po ni Mayor na wala pong pasok, ganyan, para hindi na po naabala yung mga bata.
Kanina umaga hindi naman po malakas ang ulan. Kanina umaga pagising ko, hindi naman po umuulan. Ngayong bandang 10 o'clock, umulan ng malakas. Due to torrential rains, the San Francisco River near the Apolonio Samson village in Quezon City overflowed, causing massive flooding in surrounding communities. Residents were caught by surprise as floodwaters quickly submerged their homes.
Nagdeklara yung Quezon City na walang pasok. Sinundo ko yung anak ko. Pag sundo ko, wala pa siya ganong baha. Pagbalik ko, andyan na. Bigla na lang pataas ng pataas yung tubig. Hanggang hindi na makatawid yung mga sasakyan.
Nearby areas were not spared, prompting residents in low-lying areas to evacuate. But moving around also proved difficult due to flooded roads. Still fresh from residents' minds are their experience from Typhoon Karina and the Habagat last year, which triggered flooding that reached up to the second floor of their homes.
Mabilis ang ulan, mabilis din ang baha, pero mabilis din humupa rin. Sa buong barangay Paltok, itong catch basin, kaya lahat ng tubig na babagsak dito ang salo sa amin.
Students were also affected as classes were cancelled when they were already in school. The local government of Quezon City is seeking a dialogue with national agencies as they have pinpointed several unfinished infrastructure projects as the root of worsening floods.
Yung mga dating lugar na dati hindi binabahan na ay nung inimbestigahan po natin, may kinalaman po sa pagpapatayo ng mga bagong infrastrukturang programa ng ating pong national government like the MRT-7 at yung mga ginagawang iba't ibang flood control programs ng DPWH.
Mag-i-inspection nga ako sa mga ibang mga projects sa Quezon City para tignan nga kung at i-remind yung mga contractors natin na siguraduhin yung mga debris from construction hindi nakakakos ng mga bara sa ating mga drainage.
In Pasay City, a rescue operation was carried out for students stranded at the Villamor Air Base Elementary School. The students were trapped as floodwater submerged the school following intense rains. They were immediately rescued by local disaster personnel, the Fire Bureau, and the Philippine Air Force.
Padala po tayo ng mga fiber boats together with the team and personnel po ng Pasay City